$4 trillion. Let that number settle for a moment. It is a figure so vast, so monumental, that it almost loses its meaning, becoming an abstraction rather than a measure of tangible loss. This, however, is a conservative estimate for the total economic cost of the First World War when translated into the currency of today, 2025. This was not merely the price of armies and ammunition. It was the comprehensive bill for a cataclysm that tore the world apart between 1914 and 1918. It represents a sum of destruction, disruption, human tragedy that fundamentally reordered the global landscape. The war was a voracious consumer, devouring the lives of millions, devouring the accumulated wealth of nations, devouring the productivity of entire generations, devouring the very foundations of future prosperity. The most straightforward component of the war's cost is the direct military expenditure. This is the money that governments poured into the machinery of conflict. Think of it as the explicit invoice for waging war on an industrial scale never before witnessed. Nations on both sides mobilized their entire economies for the war effort, diverting immense sums to fund their armies, navies, nascent air forces. They had to purchase staggering quantities of rifles, artillery shells, machine guns, uniforms. They needed to build and maintain battleships, submarines, tanks, airplanes. Beyond the hardware, there was the immense logistical cost of sustaining millions of men in the field, paid, fed, clothed, transported across vast distances. Rail networks were commandeered, huge training camps built, and a vast medical system stood ready for the wounded. Each bullet, each meal, each bandage had a cost meticulously recorded in national budgets from Great Britain, France to Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Beyond the direct costs paid by governments, the war inflicted a devastating toll on the physical world, a cost borne by civilians whose homes and livelihoods stood in the path of the armies. This category of loss, often termed property damage, encompasses the destruction of houses, farms, factories, mines, infrastructure. The Western Front became a symbol of this annihilation. Entire towns were wiped from the map. Ypres, Verdun, ancient cathedrals and bustling marketplaces reduced to rubble. Fertile fields churned into mud and unexploded ordnance, unusable for years. Livestock was killed or taken, forests splintered, farmhouses burned. Agricultural capacity collapsed, driving severe shortages during and after the war. Industrial regions of northern France and Belgium were gutted, railways torn up, bridges dropped, ports attacked, fleets sunk. Rebuilding was monumental. Years of lost productivity and vast expense just to restore the ground upon which civilization stood, while millions displaced paid a price in shelter, food, and care. While the visible destruction is stark, another, more subtle cost accumulated every day, the cost of lost production. For 4 years, economies stopped building civilian prosperity and future growth. Entire industries reoriented to a singular goal: winning the war. Brilliant minds that might have advanced peace were tasked with perfecting destruction. A generation of workers left farms, factories, and offices. Civilian output vanished. Women filled roles in unprecedented numbers, yet overall capacity was hobbled. Trade ground down under blockades and submarine warfare. Cargo and commerce lost at sea. Wealth not created and innovations not born left a permanent dent in the world's trajectory. After the guns fell silent, economies were weaker, less dynamic, years behind where they might have been. No accounting is complete without the human cost. The First World War consumed lives on an industrial scale. Approximately 10 million military dead, 20 million wounded, many grievously and permanently. A lost generation torn from the prime of life. Millions of civilians also perished from starvation, disease, and military action. Economists sometimes price lost lives by future earnings. Cold, controversial, but it reveals extinguished productivity rivaling military outlays. Yet no formula captures lost art, science, literature, innovation buried in Flanders. The loss was of workers and of fathers, brothers, sons, leaders, creators. Caring for survivors, physical and psychological, meant lifelong medical care, pensions, and rehabilitation, a burden lasting into the 21st century. This legacy of pain, grief, and disability is the heaviest cost, a debt that can never be truly repaid in dollars. The economic consequences did not end with the armistice. Peace began a new turmoil. Mountains of debt borrowed at wartime scale from citizens and abroad, especially the United States. Servicing debt diverted budgets from rebuilding, social needs, and recovery. Governments raised taxes and, in places like Germany, printed money, triggering hyperinflation that erased savings. Economic chaos fueled social unrest and extremism. Versailles reparations, astronomical and contested, poisoned relations throughout the 1920s. Debt, inflation, and reparations instability helped pave the way to the Great Depression. A once integrated global economy fractured into indebted, protectionist blocs with volatile currencies. International capital flows faltered, Europe staggered, the long shadow of stunted growth endured for decades. To appreciate the scale, we must translate historical figures into today. Saying $337 billion in 1913 is accurate. But it lacks visceral impact because inflation changes money's value. A dollar then bought vastly more than a dollar now. One method adjusts by the Consumer Price Index, the market basket of food, housing, clothing, and more. Apply the multiplier and direct plus indirect costs inflate into the low trillions today. Another method compares cost to GDP. Britain and Germany spent over half their national income. Applied to today, the figure is astronomical. Scholars converge on 4 to 5 trillion. The precise number matters less than the magnitude. Trillions, comparable to the annual output of an entire major nation. Translating billions to modern trillions reveals the war's world-altering economic shock. A figure like $4 trillion remains difficult to truly comprehend. It sits outside daily experience and feels abstract. Anchor it with comparisons. Not a lump sum, but what that money could do. It could transform society. Fund the entire U.S. federal education budget for over 50 years. Provide clean water and sanitation for everyone many times over. Finance a planetary rail network. Fund decades of research to cure our deadliest diseases. WWI cost more than 14 Apollos or 25 international space stations. It represents millions of work hours, tons of materials, the intellect of a generation, energy that could have built better schools, homes, hospitals, art, science, exploration, instead poured into trenches, shells, and deadlier weapons. In the final analysis, the war's bill lies around $4 trillion in today's money, with some estimates higher. That sum aggregates direct fighting, destroyed property, lost lives, economic impact, long-term debt, and stunted growth. Methodologies differ, conclusions align, an unprecedented economic wound. The cost of war is never confined to the battlefield. It permeates society. Soldiers in their lives, civilians through destroyed homes, workers through lost wages, taxpayers through decades of debt, and future generations through diminished opportunities. This understanding is relevant today, on this Christmas Eve of 2025. Debt constrains budgets. Inflation ravages savings. Disrupted trade breeds scarcity. Prosperity rests on diplomacy, cooperation, and mutual understanding. $4 trillion is a warning in the language of economics, and a reminder that peace is the essential prerequisite for human progress.